It's a shame to have to follow the fairy tales of New Zealand First as they seek to be able to rewrite history and talk from a very uninformed situation. But, Mr. Speaker, what I'd like to do in this general debate is to talk about addressing an urgent need around pastoral leaseholders, the high country farmers of New Zealand. It gives me great pleasure to see that the legislative program around addressing this inequity is coming to an end in this House. And it is important that we provide these farmers with certainty, that we provide them with respect, and that we re-establish that sense of partnership that existed previously that was destroyed by the former Labor government.
Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr. Speaker, I'm just looking at Order of the Day number 5, which is this matter. It is a matter which is coming up later in the day, and I think the rules are still not allowed to anticipate matters coming up that day. I think the member appears to be launching into a speech which is anticipating, in fact welcoming, the legislation we are considering later this sitting day.
The member's point is valid, that members shouldn't anticipate a future debate, but that doesn't prevent a member from welcoming the fact that that's coming up, so long as it doesn't get into the detail of the legislation. So I just point out to Colin King that he should not get into the detail of that, but I see nothing wrong in welcoming the fact it's coming up. Colin King.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's appropriate to bear in mind that we are very dependent upon our rural hinterland farmers when we consider the significance that Jan Wright, the Commissioner for the Environment, placed on the fragile the hinterland. And it's also of significance that this farming has been occurring in the hinterland for some 150 years, and on that basis it is very important from those people who are representative of those electorates that they in fact are able to find out a solution for these people. It's worth bearing in mind that while we have heard a lot of from the other side of the House about transferring the socialising the costs and yet privatising the gains, it is worth bearing in mind that when they were in government, that is the Labor Party were in government, that they threw money around with gay abandon, and we refer to two particular cases. One was the $43 million that they paid for St James, and the other was the $10 million that they paid for Birchwood. That has contributed to a high level of uncertainty for those farmers. And it's worth mentioning at this time, Mr. Speaker, that this relationship that needs to exist between the leaseholders and the Crown is very, very important. It is very, very fragile, and they need to be able to
front up. Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr. Speaker, the relevant standing orders are actually absolutely clear on not anticipating an order of the day. I think you were liberal in your interpretation of introductory comments to a general debate speech on the part of the member, sir. He has actually not debated anything other than the Crown pastoral lease legislation and the background to it in this speech.
Well, hear the Honourable Antolli.
Mr. Speaker, this is a third reading on the order paper of the Crown pastoral land. This bill that my colleague has been talking about the effects of has been in this House and discussed for quite some time. To then assert that no member can talk about any piece of legislation that has gone right through the process prior to it having its third reading seems to me, Mr. Speaker, to be taking the standing orders to the nth degree.
I think the solution to this problem, because I accept the points made by both members, but I think the important thing is that the member doesn't get into the detail of the legislation. I think talking about it in generalities does not anticipate the debate, because I haven't heard him talking about any of the clauses of the bill in particular, which he mustn't do. But I don't see anything wrong in the generality of the issue. Colin King.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're effectively talking about 220 families that are all positioned in the Southern Alps of the of the South Island, and half of these have actually now gone before the Land Valuation Tribunal, so it becomes very clear that there is an enduring solution. What really does concern this side of the House is the veiled threats of reprisal.
Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, we've now gone to 220 families. The issues before the Land Valuation Tribunal relating to the legislation. Mr Speaker, I invite you to read the standing order. It doesn't actually talk about the detail of the bill. It actually talks about...
Which standing order is the member referring to?
The one that's just been given to you by the clerk.
Which one? 110? The member is correct that it doesn't, the standing order doesn't specify the matter of detail, but I think there can't be anything wrong with, in a general debate, in talking about matters in general. Now, I think what I don't have in front of me is the bill, so I don't know whether the bill talks about a number of families or not. And I think what the member, though, making a speech must realise is there is a standing order in 110 that a member may not anticipate discussion of any general business or order of the day. Now, I accept the point made by the Honourable Anne Tolley. There's nothing secret about this legislation. This is a general debate. What I'll be following up on, because this may arise in the future, is to see when this standing order came in, whether it predates the general debate or not, because the general debate is a relatively recent phenomenon, and to me it would be unreasonable to rule out general reference to matters, even if they are on the order paper and coming up in debate. But I ask the member to try and avoid detail of the bill, because it will clearly continue to cause points of order to be raised, because the standing order, which is we must comply with the standing orders, makes it very clear that a member may not anticipate discussion of any general business or order of the day, and the Speaker, in determining whether a matter is out of order, the Speaker has regard to the probability of the matter anticipated being brought before the House within a reasonable time, and the matter is on the order paper for debate. So I'm trying to be liberal and not pedantic, because I don't see the problem caused by passing reference, but the member shouldn't get into the detail. Colin King.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The flow over from this situation can be viewed within the 10-year review, where once again the Labour Party has totally destroyed that feeling of partnership, and in doing so have set back that relationship a very, very long way. And it's a legacy that boils over often when you hear the other side talk about socialising the cost and privatising the gain, where in actual fact it is contrary, totally different. When one looks at it objectively, one sees that the best solution for all New Zealanders is that we have those families farming in their situations, if it's in the 10-year review situation or whether it's in the pastoral lease situation. So on that basis, Mr Speaker, this side of the House is very, very pleased that it is going to address this issue, that it is going to provide certainty for those families, that it's going to restore the confidence within the 10-year review situation.
Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
But the member has just said that that side of the House is very pleased that the House is going to, I think, deal with this issue. And Mr Speaker, if you can't get any closer to anticipating a debate than saying that we have an issue of pastoral leases which the House is going to deal with.
Order.
Well, I'll hear Colin King, since he is the subject of this point of order.
The member's comment, the reference I was making was to the 10-year review situation in this instance.
I mean, the dilemma I have is that I don't have the particular detail of the bill in front of me as Speaker, that standing order should not prevent members referring to the general situation of Crown leases or Crown pastoral leases. But the detail of the bill is not a matter that should be debated in this debate, because it is on the order paper, likely to be reached the same sitting day. There are not a lot of Speaker's rulings to guide the Speaker in the interpretation of this standing order. It seems to me unduly restrictive, because I don't see the problem being caused to the House. And that's why I'm being perhaps a little unduly liberal in my interpretation of the standing order. But I stress to the member speaking that if he continues to seemingly breach the standing order, he will tend to be interrupted by points of order. I've tried to guide him to avoid the detail of the bill. Is this a point of order that Charles Chauvel is seeking to raise? Charles Chauvel.
Because I do agree that that is the nub of the question. Sarah, as I understand the standing orders, Standing Order 110 precludes specific reference to a debate or specific anticipation of a debate that is coming, for the very reason that the House is devoting allocated time to it. And of course, we all know that the general debate standing order was made after that standing order. The general debate standing order entitles any member to refer to miscellaneous business. And so as a member who hopes to speak in the debate later, I know that it's a useful opportunity for me and other members to raise issues that are not otherwise programmed into the standing orders or the order of the day. And so if we are to allow the general debate to be turned into simply an anticipated discussion of things that are on the order paper that we know are going to come up already, then it actually really goes to the heart of destroying the purpose of the general debate, which is to allow members to just get up and speak about miscellaneous business, not about matters that are on the order paper and are going to have the House's time devoted to it. It's the nub of the purpose of that standing order, sir, in my view.
Can I just add?
I'll hear from, Michael Woodhouse.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to make a point by comparison with the speech provided by the Honourable Paula Bennett in respect of an issue of government policy that was introduced into the House by way of a bill yesterday, and her articulation of the impact of that on a certain group of people, in this case the unemployed, sickness and invalids benefit. Now that is a matter that has a legislative impact and will be brought back before this House within a reasonable period of time, as the standing order requires. I suggest that what Mr King was doing was quite similar. This is an issue affecting people whom he represents, that it is on the legislative order paper, coming up in a reasonable period of time, but I don't think it's unreasonable, nor outside Standing Order 110, for him to actually refer to the impact of that in general debate. At the end of the day, he represents those people, and that is his opportunity to articulate the benefits and risks of government policy to them.
I'll hear from the Honourable Trevor Mallard, and I then will rule on this matter.
With that point, Sue, Paula Bennett's bill is not on the order paper for consideration by the House. It's at a select committee, and therefore it will come up, but it is not a matter which the House can reasonably be assumed to get to in the near future. Mr. Speaker, Dr. Speaker Smith has referred to that matter around the anticipation of debate himself, and given us a Speaker's ruling on that one. The other point I would like to make, though, Sir, is I think it's fair to say that while there's division on Crown pastoral leases, there's not an enormous amount of rancour about it. But, Sir, I'd like you to turn your mind to if there was a highly controversial piece of legislation that was sitting on the table of the House, something on which urgency might be taken later the same day, something where there was massive division. So I think if members started having the debate on that legislation an hour early during the general debate, rather than in the time that had been set down, that had been allocated for the debate, then our systems would begin to fall apart. So you might be right, there might be time for a review of the standing order. It does leave a little discretion, and one might say, sir, that you've in a common law way taken a little more discretion than you've been allowed by the statute of standing orders already in your rulings, but sir, for the member to refer to changes which are part of the bill around the valuation process in this House, I think is a clear breach of the intention of standing orders, and while it's only leading to a little bit of disorder now, if it was allowed to continue, could lead to a lot of disorder on other legislation.
I thank honourable members for their contribution. With respect to the matter raised by Michael Woodhouse, the interpretation that's been given to the Standing Order 110 with respect to how soon a matter may be anticipated to be in front of the House, Speaker's ruling 25.1 has sort of narrowed that down to can reasonably be expected that debate on the bill will be reached on the same sitting day. So it narrows it down somewhat, because otherwise it would be ridiculous. But I come back to Charles Chevelle's point of order, and this is what troubles me, is I don't want to constrain the House if there's no mischief being caused. And the general debate is a matter of members' choice. It's miscellaneous business. The general debate enables members to debate issues that matter to them, to their constituents, and that's why I don't want to be overly pedantic in applying Standing Order 110. If other members wish to make comment about what the member says about Crown leases in his electorate, other members are welcome to do that, but they're also welcome to debate the issues they wish to debate. That's the purpose of the general debate. And I would be loath to interpret Standing Order 110 in too narrow a way, and that's why I haven't done that. It may well be the Standing Orders Committee should have a look at it, because as the Honourable Trevor Mallard says, the issue may well arise again in the future, and if I rule in a reasonably liberal way today and were it to cause a problem in the future, then maybe it'd be wise for the Standing Orders Committee to look at it before it causes a problem. But I don't want to constrain members in the general debate from discussing issues that matter to them and their constituents, and that's why I haven't been pedantic in ruling on the points of order raised.